All right, folks, welcome to another episode 105 of Total Male Introspective, also known as the TMi Podcast. I'm Joe.
I'm JC.
What's up? I'm Jonesy.
And we have a great show for you guys this evening, as per usual, by our own standards. And we're going to talk about later, our hot topic of the night is going to be mental health, focus on the men part of the mental health. And also, I'd like to tell you guys about our link tree. I made it easier because these guys turned me on to Linktree and hooked me up with the info that I needed to put all of our links for all our social media, our Patreon, all the stuff that we have going on at one spot. So that's linktr.ee/the TMi Podcast. It's up on the screen. But for the people listening on the audio on Spotify, iTunes, and all those fancy spots, it's linktr.ee/the TMi Podcast. That has our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, the whole nine yards. And JC hits us with the Total Meme Introspective on Instagram. So we throw a few memes out on Facebook as well. So it's not just looking at our ugly mugs yapping about hot topics. There's also some fun involved here. What's that?
So who wouldn't want to look at our ugly mugs?
Actually, I think we're pretty cute, if you don't say so myself.
Oh, yeah.
What else do I have to tell everybody? We go live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. We implore you to join us for the live shows. Your comments are welcome. Your input and opinions are what we're looking for. As long as it is respectful, we can all disagree, but get along at the same time. That's what we're looking for. Shoot some comments when you have some information you'd like to share with us or opinions you'd like to share with us throughout the show. Like I said before, if you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on our Facebook, on our Twitter, and our YouTube, and our Instagram, you guys can find us there and join the party, join the discussion. I guess I'm going to pass the torch over and let someone else do some talking. I'm not feeling too great, guys. I got like some dehydration, some heat stroke going today out in the Bronx. Don't want to walk up 8 flights of stairs in 100-degree weather ever.
Man, this guy had like COVID light right over here.
It's not even a funny joke, man. Stop. Don't even play.
Oh, man.
I mean, what were you doing that you had to walk up 8 flights of stairs? Like who? Like you're not even allowed to have 8 flights in New York City. So what were you doing?
Working. I was inspecting a building for work, making sure it was getting done right. And of course, I had to go check out the roof because they just finished work on the roof. So they were like, "You want to see the roof?" I'm like, "Not really, but I have to."
Yeah, you kind of have to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you also got to tell like the listeners what you were really also doing was pounding beers yesterday as well.
Yeah, I have been taking it easy on the beers lately for health purposes. And last night, the neighbors and I had some fun in their yard with some beers. So,
yeah, you got to get your 64 ounces in, bro.
Yeah, I definitely didn't drink enough water. Definitely didn't drink enough water before I went out in the heat today.
Yeah, we can definitely see where Joe's priorities lie because, we were doing a pre-production meeting yesterday and he was like, "Hey guys, I can't join you. Beer's calling." It's beer o'clock right now.
It's beer o'clock. Listen, I hadn't had a drink in a little, well, I had like a beer over the weekend, but I haven't sat down and have drinks with friends in like a week. So sometimes you got to take the opportunity during the COVID times when you get it,
Man, I can't wait to have a draft beer. I can't recall the last time I had one.
Well, luckily my wife works at a brewery, so she hooks it up and brings beer home for me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I feel you. Like that frosty cold mug glass sitting in front of you on a bar. Yeah. Sorry, Jonesy.
Yeah, I don't really get that. What? I used to. Too many of those in my early 20s.
Ooh, and some
and mid-20s and late 20s.
Early 30s.
And had to get rid of that.
That's funny. So what's going on, guys? What else we got before we get to our hot topic? I think weren't we talking about Kanye a little bit? Didn't JC want to talk about Kanye?
Oh man, I have a lot to talk about Kanye today, but so I'm gonna let Jonesy handle this hot topic, right? I mean, sorry, the face palm.
Oh my God. Okay. Kanye West presidential update. So apparently Kanye West would on July 4th decided that he was going to run for president.
America.
However, he missed like 10 states their filings to get on the ballot because he decided that he was going to run for president on July 4th and not like any time before that. So,
I mean, you act like he hasn't
apparently-
he's going to run for president for like the last 8 years, though.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
he was always saying it, but he never actually did it.
I'm just
Apparently-
I'm visualizing him at like a 4th of July party. Someone's lighting off fireworks, and they're like, "America," and he's like, "You know what I should do? I'm gonna run for president." Like, it's just, so Kanye, like just like
yeah.
so random.
So apparently he had a rally in South Carolina, and the rally was almost like a presidential launch. But the goal of it was not really a presidential launch. It was more of like, hey, I need to get 10,000 signatures so I can be on the ballot in South Carolina. So he has this rally, and how can we take this guy seriously at all? How can
the
we take
Harriet
this guy
Tubman
seriously?
comments?
Oh my God! Not only did he say Harriet Tubman didn't free slaves, she said she didn't free slaves, but she sent them up north to work for other white people.
It was like Jeff Bezos. It was like Harriet Tubman was like a Amazon delivery driver.
Oh
Did
my
he
God!
say that?
Yes, that was his quote. And so not only that, but
That's like a super yikes.
the parts that they don't even talk about, well, that the media isn't really talking about yet, is that he told publicly, he said that he wanted to abort his child, and he basically, him and Kim decided not to do it. So can you imagine when North?
Oh my God!
Can you imagine when North gets older and has to listen to her father say that he wanted to abort her?
That's freaking rough, man.
Yeah. But then like also like apparently Kim and like a doctor were like on their way trying to get him to go to a hospital in the moment. And Kanye still has some people who like love him still. I just saw today that Dave Chappelle actually flew all the way out from Ohio to Wyoming to be with him, using the hashtag #PrayForYay. To hear him out, to get a sense of what he's going through right now.
Right.
I can't imagine what's happening in his head right now. And we're all kind of like laughing at it, but there's something serious that's going on, and it's something that is crippling like the country and crippling the world. And that's the whole purpose of this hot topic today, is to talk about mental health, and how we can talk more about what's going on on a topic that is sometimes really touchy to talk about, and especially for men, because it's difficult for us to find like the right words in order to express our emotions. So this facepalm couldn't have been more topical. Yeah,
you're right. Can I jump in and just say, if you think about it, though, the crazy stuff Kanye's saying, if he was actually elected president, wouldn't be that big of a change from the current status.
I know, that's the weirdest part. It would be like, we're not too far off from that.
Did you see what the president tweeted? It would just be another 4 years.
Oh my God!
I mean, I know what
we're going through that now.
I think that Kanye is probably upset that he wasn't able to be the 45th president, because it would have been amazing if he was rocking a Jordan comeback jersey and rocking the 45 and he wasn't the president. I would be all in on that.
Honestly, I think it's funny that he's upset he couldn't get on the ballots and stuff, but doesn't that just like have like the kind of vibe of like a rich entitlement, like a person with money is like, but what do you mean I don't get what I want right now? Like that's sort of that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from him throwing a temper tantrum about not being able to be on the ballots. Like, you had time to do it. You can't just change the rules because you're rich and famous,
Right. Well,
that's the whole point of being rich and famous.
What was that, Jason?
Isn't that the whole point of being rich and famous, to bend the rules?
Yeah, we can dive into that rabbit hole another day.
Oh man,
there's plenty of those conspiracy theories running around out there about the rich people getting away with literally probably getting away with murder.
Literally getting away with murder. Yes.
Yeah.
But, I think we should start to jump into that hot topic. So why don't you hit me with that button, Joe, so we can
I'll hit
jump
you
in.
with the button.
So our hot topic today is all about putting the men in mental health. The media's portrayal of mental health, particularly mental illness, is somewhat ignorant, cruel, deeply damaging. It's something that we need to change and talk about and destigmatize. And we can start right here, having a conversation, and here's how you can help. In the past few weeks, we've been bombarded by information about Kanye and Britney Spears, both of them probably suffering in ways we know nothing about. Yet they've been turned into showpieces for mental illness. We don't understand them. We judge them and turn them into memes. Equating mental illness with being crazy and unstable and out of control makes it hard for people to open up about their problems. When this happens, there can be serious consequences. Instead of making fun and pointing fingers, can we try some empathy and compassion, please, for these individuals?
Yeah, good call.
Kanye West's incidental experience with bipolar doesn't represent the experience of everyone who suffers from the same illness. People like Lady Gaga and Jim Carrey both suffer from depression, but their experiences are very different. They're also lucky. Not everyone survives depression. A majority of people suffering from mental illness issues such as anxiety, depression, bipolar, PTSD, but they live normal, meaningful lives. They're able to function and cope and thrive with the right tools and support. So can we push that narrative and give people hope instead of shame? Because the alternative is individuals like Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, and Brody Stevens, all whom taken their own lives at such early ages. We still don't know why, but today's climate makes talking about mental illness feel shameful. Imagine if they felt safe to say, hey, I'm not okay. I need help. They might still be with us today. So let's take a look at the stats, though. Suicide's on the rise. People are losing their jobs, family members, and significant others. They're grieving. They're suffering from debilitating illness. Would it shock you if some of these people fell into depressive episodes that led to the thoughts of suicides? Probably not. Mental health care in America is a mess. The stigma is one thing, but the lack of resources and funds for treatment is shocking, considering how many people suffer. And we'll dig deeper into that today. And it doesn't help that Big Pharma's goal is to maximize profits, resulting in overprescriptions of meds by physicians. But if you're on social media, like most of us are, hopefully you are as you're listening to this podcast, you can help. You can get help. For example, Charlemagne the God, right? Love him. Hot 97, Breakfast Club, Revolt, wherever you find them, Brilliant Idiots. He openly talks about anxiety and mental health in the Black community, where these problems are often brushed over and under the rug. Psychologists, researchers, authors, and educated people on their Instagram pages is one way that we can help make change. We should be trying to create an environment online and in person that makes it easy for people to talk about mental health, where seeking treatment is a sign of strength and not weakness. Where you're not crazy if you're struggling, you're just human, and there's no shame in that. To give a more personal note, when I was, about like 4 or 5 years ago, I began to understand my own mental health issues. And it took a lot for me to come out to my friends. It was a winter afternoon. It was snowing. And I just felt lost. Like I didn't know what to do. Didn't know who to talk to, who to turn to. And then, having these dark thoughts in my head, there was only a few potential outcomes that I felt could come out of bottling this all up. And so instead of turning to a negative, and that being, drinking, drugs, or something much worse, I opened up to my friends, told them what was going on, and they were very open and receptive of like what I was going through. I don't know if you remember that text message, Jonesy, but Jonesy's first question he asked me was, "What drugs are you on?" And
today.
But so I think that with more and more people who are coming out and being open about their struggles with mental health, there's so many people who I didn't know had mental health issues until I started like researching them, and they figure like I'm just one person, and there's roughly 6 million people a year. That's 6 million men who are diagnosed with mental health issues a year. Some famous people who have mental illness that we don't think about. Robin Williams is a big one, but Brandon Marshall has been an advocate for mental health. The professional football player Terry Bradshaw with mental health. That might just be from sucking as a quarterback and having more interceptions than touchdowns, or being knocked over the head. But
the Hall of Fame would beg to differ with you on that one.
Yeah. Other people such as like Leonardo DiCaprio has mental issues, and The Rock and Prince Harry. These are all people who suffer from varying degrees of mental health. And they made my journey a lot more easy to go on this path, because that I know that I'm not the only person who's out there. And I know that there are other people who are alive and thriving. Kevin Love, to Sim's point, is another individual. And those are like athletes that we are like listing, but there's people who are probably in your everyday circle who are struggling with something that we don't know, and they're afraid to open up to you because they don't know how they'll be perceived. I know I took a very long opening.
No, that's fine. But I think you hit on a lot of points there. I think that, I think the last part you said really struck me, because, we can always talk, I think taking a lot of this in and saying, okay, celebrities go through this, and other people go through this. But I think one thing that people miss is that it could happen to me, and it does happen to me, and whether it be temporarily or something you need to seek professional help for. There's mental health issues that go on temporarily, such as a death in the family, or being on lockdown for 3 freaking months and not being able to see anyone. That's a big one. So temporarily we can go through these mental episodes. And a lot of times men especially are just told to suck it up, or be a man, or we don't talk about that stuff.
Don't be a baby.
Don't be a baby is a big one. And it tells us that it's basically subconsciously tells us that we're not allowed to have emotions. We're not allowed to talk about emotions, and our emotions don't matter. Mm-hmm. So, it's something that we really need to address in our society, but not only in our society, but in our own family as well. Because we need to talk to our kids. We need to talk to our immediate friend circle and say, hey, if you're going through something that's an issue, or you're going through a problem, we're here to support you, and we're here to love you unconditionally.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, especially like with 1 in 5 adults experiencing mental health problems each year, just think of that. So 20% of the people in your life have some sort of mental health issue that you may have no clue what's going on. So you might wonder why someone's all of a sudden quiet, or maybe why someone all of a sudden the life of the party. They could be going through a manic episode, or they can be going through a depressed state. And that, I've been through all of those different types of states. People will be like, hey, what's going on? You're usually so party animal, or you're out having a good time, but you're like so quiet today. And it's just, I would get into situations where, you know, you don't want to be around people, but you're trying to save face and go out because, you know, it's what's expected of you, and you don't want to draw any red flags to, you know, what's going on in your life at that particular moment in time.
Yeah, and I think the expectations of being a man in our society have to shift at times, because the expectations, and you see this a lot in sports, and you see this a lot in the media, and just talking to your friends in general, you know, the expectations of being a man are that you're going to always show strength, that you're always going to be there to be a shoulder to lean on, but not necessarily lean on other shoulders. And it's just really, really difficult when you're going through something. Like, where do you go? Like, a lot of, like, Chris Rock is a good one too, because Chris Rock, if you saw his stand up, I didn't find it to be all that. I mean, personally, I didn't find it to be all that great. But
hey, don't talk bad about Uncle Chris.
I have to agree with Matt, though. His more recent stuff hasn't really been.
Yeah, it wasn't. He was very. It was very, like, ironic. But anyways, he does address his own mental health at one point, because he talks about how he feels like that the only thing he gets value from is providing for his family, because the only thing that he gets praise for is providing for his family, as far as monetarily. And so it's the expectations of being a man in our society right now dictate that the only thing a man has to do is be able to provide for his family, rather than be an emotional support for that family. And that's more of a women's job. And that really needs to shift, not only because not only because of your own friend circle and your own family circle, but your own mental health as well. I mean, men should have the ability and need to have the ability to express themselves when stuff isn't going their way, or they're feeling depressed, or they're feeling anxious. You know, we'll get into the top risk factors, but when men are feeling depressed, when men are feeling anxious, a lot of men feel like they have nowhere to go with these feelings.
Yeah. So, thanks, Sim, for bringing that up. So, you know, we're talking about mental health today. And just so people know, there are 5 major mental health problems that are affecting men today. So the first one being depression, with over 6 million men suffer from depression per year. Next being anxiety. So this can be anything from, like, panic disorders or a phobia of some sort. That's like roughly like 19.1 million American males. Then we have bipolar disorder. We have psychosis and schizophrenia. Then one thing that people don't tend to talk about are, like, eating disorders that men also have. And this can be whether you're anorexic or if you binge eat. So there's 2 different ways to think about eating disorders, because a lot of times people don't think of people are overeating as a way to deal with a problem. They tend to only think about, like, the anorexic portion of eating disorders. Like, one thing, like, you know, I've suffered from is, you know, having, like, body dysmorphia. It's just the fact that I've never felt that I've been ideal, like the ideal body type or whatever that may be, no matter what I'm doing. Like, one of my friends, Trey, was just like, he's like, man, you've been running nonstop for 6 straight years right now. And then he asked me a question and was, like, really deep, but I don't think he meant it to be that deep. He asked me, what are you running from? And then I honestly was like, I was running towards, like, that ideal perfect body that people assume that you should have. And then at some point I, like, noticed that I was just like, that's, like, how my, like, life was. Like, think of, like, things that I was afraid to do because of my body. Like, if people had a pool party, like, I would not go to pool parties, or I would be that guy who would be wearing a t-shirt in the pool. That's, or like when it would come to being intimate with someone, it would be like, okay, like let's not have like daytime intimacy. Like let's wait till it's like nighttime. And so those things were issues that all stemmed from me having, this body dysmorphia, which didn't really lead to a eating disorder, I would say, because I pretty much eat whatever I want, but I burn it off quite quickly. But those are things that cause me to miss out on certain aspects of life that would have been great, but I didn't want to attend because of how I felt about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had a very similar experience. Especially with my own weight troubles as well. I I actually just recently lost 100 pounds, and I still thank you.
I'm down 10 over here. I'm freaking feeling good about myself.
Yeah, it's just been a year in like 2 weeks that I've lost 100 pounds, and it's been something that I've always wanted to do. But it's really something that I did for myself and wanted to do for myself and couldn't basically do for anyone else. Like other people wanted me to lose weight, like my family members and whatnot. But it's something that I had to do for myself, but not only had to do for myself, but I also had to readjust my thinking. I had to readjust my thinking on how my body looks, because I still feel like I still have that 100 pounds on me. And so I'm trying to do stuff like one of my big goals for this summer, which COVID kind of threw out the window. One of my big goals for this summer was to celebrate my weight loss, was to start to go on roller coasters anymore. Because believe it or not, when you're 350 pounds, you can't freaking go on roller coasters, which I love because I the damn seat.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I think I remember that trip that we took together, and it was like, it was look at you, guy.
Yeah, man.
Look at Jonesy, man. That's great, dude. I mean, I'm proud of you. We did have a talk at one point when you were getting up there, and I was like, hey, man, we're going to go back to the gym. I got to get back in the gym too. It was
yeah.
We're both in a bad place for a little while there.
I think one thing that's been like really great though is like, especially within our group of friends, is the fact that like we've always all supported each other when it comes to issues, and we've always had each other's back. And I feel a lot of people don't have that support system that's going to be there for them when they're going through these like times for, they're going through these like times where they need help the most, and they're afraid to be ridiculed or not understood because they don't have that support system to give them, positive and encouraging feedback.
Looks like Sage asked you what
Sage, what's up, Sage?
What helped you push through and lose weight?
Yeah, so I always felt that I needed to lose weight. Always wanted to lose weight. It finally got to the point where enough was enough, and I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. Most of the mental health problems that I've gone through in my life, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so it finally got to the point where it was like almost like the point of no return. Plus I went to the doctor, and the doctor said I was going to die. So that really helped too.
Wow. Yeah, me too. That's what just happened to me.
The doctor said I really want to finish this with no more monkeys jumping on the bed. Clearly, I need to stop singing nursery rhymes to my kids after that.
My cardiologist does not beat around the bush, and I'm not going to throw his name out here, but he was like, all right, your blood pressure is really high. You're fat. So you need to lose some weight. I'm like, okay.
So, I mean, that kind of helped too, where my doctor was like, yeah, if you don't lose weight, you're probably going to die a lot sooner than you should. So I was like, oh, okay.
It's funny. So a lot of people who are tuning in, they may not know this, but the original name of our podcast was BMI, which is a twist on body mass index. Mm-hmm. Because we've all lost so much weight, we were going to be blatant male introspective, but we changed it to total to make it TMI. And the reason behind that was because we wanted to be blatant, but also, pay homage to the fact that we all lost, incredible amounts of weight over the course of like these years. So like Jonesy, he's lost over 100 pounds. I've lost close to 130. I
lost like 30 or 40. You guys make me look terrible.
But that's the thing. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's journey is not the same, and the only person you're really competing with is yourself.
Right.
Especially when it comes to mental health, and not only weight loss, but like just mental health and eating disorders, and whether you're going through depression, anxiety, whether you have bipolar, whatever it is.
I also want to make a point that like we were saying, the mental health, and now we're touching upon the fact that our physical health was in jeopardy due to our weight. But I've also noticed that my blood pressure went through the roof during quarantine. I mean, I wonder why. I was stuck in the house with my wife and my daughters, and I love them to death. But, all the time, every day, they never leave. It was internalized. And I was internalizing it, I think, the mental part of it, which then was affecting the physical side. I mean, yeah, I'm sure my weight and my alcohol intake and all the other outside factors, but it definitely wasn't assisted by my mental health becoming on a decline. So I think I was internalizing a lot of my thoughts about anxiety, depression. I mean, who wasn't depressed during quarantine at one point where you just were like, screw this, I'm not getting out of bed today? Like, why? I'm gonna go put on my couch pajamas.
Quarantine was really difficult. Quarantine was extremely difficult. I run on wanting to see people and wanting to be social with my friends, and not having that. And especially with the summer and being a teacher, the summer is like my time to like do stuff finally, because how many trips have I said no to in the fall and the winter? I pretty much say no to everything during the school year because I literally can't go places because there's too much stuff to do. And finally, the 2 months of being off is here and everything shut down. It's like that threw me into such a bad place, such a depression, that was really, really difficult for me.
Yeah, one thing which early in lockdown, I posted something about how, we're doing our best during like lockdown. Like we haven't experienced something of this magnitude in our lifetimes. And so I posted something, and a bunch of people commented on like my Instagram story, and like those people who commented on me, like for the past 3 months, I still kind of check in on them just to make sure that they are okay. So like, they knew that they had someone to talk to and listen to, especially if they were like alone. Like some people have studio apartments, they live by themselves, and just to be like, hey,
Lucky.
I'm here for you if you need, to chat, whatever. People probably thought I was like super annoying because I kept checking in on them, but I was just like, you know what? Like, this is who I am. I'm going to look after you like until the end. Just because I've been in that place where, you can be in a room full of people and still be alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's what social media does. It makes us feel like we are connected to just people's feeds. But how many people are actually like reaching out to you, checking up on you, making sure you're okay, and not asking you questions like, hey, what did you do today? Like, I'm in quarantine. What the hell do you think I did today? I sat on the couch in my couch PJs, according to Joe.
Yeah.
When you put on your work clothes and they're the couch PJs, like that's what it was.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, we can talk about this subject more and more. I mean, there's a couple of things that we should get to, and I think one of the big things that we should talk about is probably the worst aspect that can come out of mental health, and that is suicide. It's a really touchy subject. Thank you for throwing up the hotline, for the suicide hotline. For those who are unaware or who are listening, 1-800-273-8255 is the suicide hotline. You can also text them. I know this from experience that you can text the suicide hotline and they will text you back and they will chat with you and make sure that you are okay. When it comes to men with suicide is the 7th leading cause of death among men. And accounts for roughly 2.2% of all deaths in America. There's a lot of factors that go into why people would do the ultimate, I don't even know the proper word to say, but there's a lot of factors that go into why people would decide to go the route of suicide. Factors include things like social isolation, substance abuse, unemployment, military-related trauma, genetic predisposition, and other mood disorders put individuals at a higher risk for suicide. And there's other things that we should know though is that men are 4 times more likely than women to die of suicide. So 79% of all deaths that occurred in America last year were men. Other things are sexual orientation plays a big factor into mental health. Things that we should know, things that I wanted to note to you is the fact that many people in the LGBTQI community, I think I got plus, sorry if I forgot a letter, face discrimination, prejudice, denial of civil and human rights, harassment, family rejection. And all these can really lead to worsening symptoms for people in this community. Just the simple fact of coming out can be difficult or a traumatic experience for those individuals. And so it's not, out of context to think that, there are higher rates of suicide inside of these communities, especially before the age of 25, right when they're beginning to live their life. For those who, do not go about suicide, they turn to things like substance abuse as a way to self-medicate from being rejected from loved ones, or that, they're forced to turn to homelessness because their family members are not accepting of them. So they have to live their life out on the streets, which oftentimes leads to drugs and more mental health issues than they could have expected if they had someone who was accepting of them at home.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, and then listen, that's just the the gay and lesbian community. Sorry, there's a lot of letters in there. But what?
Try not to leave anyone out either.
I'm trying not to.
You're doing a good job, JC. You're doing it.
So that's just one community. But then when we start breaking it down into ethnicities and races, it can be really difficult at times. So what happens when we're at the intersection of mental health in one's experience as a Black person? While the experience of being Black in America varies tremendously, there's shared cultural factors that play a role into defining mental health and supporting well-being and resiliency and healing. And I can speak to a lot of this. Part of the shared cultural experiences that I share are like values and family connections and expressions through spirituality or music and reliance on community networks and church. And one thing that often comes up when it comes to being Black is the fact that mental health can be a stigma, especially in our community. It's still pervasive in our society. And for many Black communities, discussing mental health can be a difficult subject. I remember opening up to my mom at this little diner in New York City. And I was telling her what I was going through. And, she was really, she was really supportive of me. But I also had other family members who were there at the time. And what they wanted me to do is pray on it, that God would pray away the mental health issues that I was having. And I understand where they're coming from. They're from the South, and, God plays a big role in like life. But, instead of praying, that my issues would go away, going to church was a solid option. But in order to have a support system to support me, because as much as I would hope that praying would have, made this situation a lot better, there's still 63% of Black people in America that believe that mental health conditions is a personal sign of weakness. And we need to fix that stigma that, my mental health is not a sign that my mental health is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength because I'm opening up and searching for that help.
Right.
I'm sorry, chime in, Jones.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the head on the nail there. It's not a sign of weakness if you're seeking for help. It's a sign of strength, because it says, we look to do better in all parts of our life, professionally and in our relationships and in business, and try to do better in every other way. Why would mental health be any different than that? And seeking that help is something that can be really scary. It can be really hard for people because they don't know, and they don't know how other people are going to react. But you talking to your mom about your mental health hardships can give people a lot of hope, because I know your mom, and I've known your mom for a very long time. I kind of figured that that's the way it would go. But being her son, you don't necessarily know that that's how it's going to go, about her being very supportive, because there's still that doubt there that we've always had creeping in. Now, I feel like I have a very supportive mom, and shout out to my mom too. My mom is extremely supportive, and my dad as well. My whole family, my friends, and that's one thing that I have as well, is I have a really good support system around me, and that's why I was able to kind of open up and talk about the things that I do struggle with as well.
Yeah, totally. That's a really good point right there. And I don't want to take away from our Latinx community, because they have their own struggles as well. Some of the
some of us whiteys get crazy too, man. All right. Like,
I'm sorry, man. Like, you can chime in whenever your COVID light kicks off. Okay.
I am gonna chime in for a second, because you guys had the floor for a while.
Okay, but can I just kind of
finish your point? I'm waiting for you.
And you can go back to the majority. Freaking white people always about that.
I'm allowed to be crazy too.
But no, with our Latinx friends and family and those out there, they have things such as like language barriers that make it difficult for them to explain what's going on, particularly when they're seeking counsel from a person for a sensitive or uniquely personal situation. Other things that happen, and this is across the board also, there's less health insurance coverage that's for them. Roughly about a fifth of all Latinx individuals don't have health insurance. So in addition of facing an already limited pool of providers due to language barriers, people who identify as Hispanics, they have fewer options when they're uninsured. Another thing is legal status. They are sometimes afraid to go to doctors because, they may be an immigrant who arrived without documentation, and they fear of the deportation can prevent them from seeking help. And at the end of the day, and just one last couple of stigmas that are associated with Latinx individuals, they may not seek treatment because they don't recognize the signs and symptoms of mental health conditions or know where to find help. And so many people in the Latinx community will use phrases such as el dicho or la ropa sucia se lava en casa, which is pretty much, don't air your dirty laundry in public. So for many people in the Latinx community, they tend to be very private and often don't want to talk in public about challenges that are occurring at home. So this leads to a lack of information within the community about mental health, as talking about it can be viewed as taboo. Mm-hmm. So this lack of information also increases the stigma associated with mental health issues, and many do not seek treatment for the fear of being labeled as locos or crazy or having a mental illness because they may cause shame upon their family. That's all I got for you, Joe.
Okay. I was waiting patiently. I was waiting patiently for my turn. You had mentioned that some people couldn't get the proper help because of health insurance coverage or availability in their area. And that actually was something that happened to me 6 years ago. I didn't have the best. I changed to a way better insurance policy, but I didn't have the best insurance policy. So when I started telling my wife, I think I'm losing it a little bit here. I think I need help. I'm always depressed. I have anxiety. I never had anxiety issues like I was having. So we said, all right, let's look into it. Let me check and see what's up with what doctors I can go see. Psychologist versus psychiatrist, which is a very important thing for people to know, is psychologists are people that will talk to you. Psychiatrists are people that will prescribe you drugs. There's a difference. Not that they shouldn't if they feel that it's needed, but a psychologist is more of a verbal exchange, and a psychiatrist is a verbal exchange, but also has the ability to prescribe medication and identify what medication you might need. So anyway, back to my point is I looked up who I could see, and it was a very limited list with that insurance. And then when I called to make an appointment, they're like, oh, well, your insurance only covers this much. It'll be $180 a session out of your pocket. And I was like, I guess I'm just going to be crazy then. I mean, it was so ridiculously expensive at the time. I didn't really have that kind of money. Not that anybody wants to spend $180 on any session. But I was like, wow, I can't do that every week. I can't swing that. That's not fair to the family. But that's the problem. That's the stigma that sucks, is because I'm trying to better myself for my family. And then I'm turning around and saying, but I don't want to take money out of my family's pot of funds to do so. So that's like a catch-22. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like I want to be better for the people I love, and obviously yourself. But when you better yourself, you're bettering the situation for the people around you as well. So it was a very frustrating situation to say, oh, wow, I can't afford it. I can't swing it right now. So it's really difficult.
A lot of health insurances are getting better with that, though. A lot of times this is the thing. They want you to go ahead and they want you to go to a psychiatrist because they'll be able to prescribe you drugs. And drugs are like that.
Tatiana said, I asked for the Groupon. Yeah, can we get some mental health Groupons here? That's a great idea, Tatiana.
But yeah, they're getting much better with that. A lot of times they push you to go to a psychiatrist, even though you may not need to go to a psychiatrist, because they fit our health insurances are really, really screwed up. So they just want to get you drugs and get a lot of money off of you for getting those drugs. So a lot of times they just push you to a psychiatrist. But But the most effective way to treat depression and anxiety is a combination of drugs and therapy. So you need both in order to.
Some people need both.
Some people need both. A lot of people just need to be able to talk to a professional and work it out and not need drugs at all. Actually, a great majority of people do that. But people who are diagnosed with major or mild depression, major or moderate, not mild, major or moderate depression, generally need a combination of drugs and therapy and talking therapy as well. But
so Josie, I think that, when we were talking yesterday, you had brought up a bunch of great resources that, our listeners can, check out if they feel that, they're looking for help and they don't know where to turn.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that I found. First of all, mindfulness. Mindfulness is a godsend. Mindfulness is awesome. And
Me too.
I recommend.
I've been doing it too.
Everyone. Joe has been doing it. I do it every day. I actually brought it into my classroom for my kids. The Calm app is one of the best apps out there, but there's also Headspace that can really help.
And all those apps are offering free year-long subscriptions right now, depending on your credit card company that you have or your credit card that you use, or just signing up. I know Calm and Headspace were doing that, and I know American Express just started giving free access to the Calm app for an entire year.
Yeah, so I use the Calm app. Headspace has been very good as well. They're guided meditations. They go 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, 15 minute, 20 minutes. And it's like using a muscle. So you have to start off slow. And then you work up to the longer meditations. They're guided meditations. So a lot of them tell you exactly what to think about. When you get really good at it, you'll be able to do ones with just the bells to bring your focus back. But mindfulness allows you to become more in the moment rather than thinking about something in your past or your future. So, for example, if you're worried about something that's going to go on in the future, you're anxious about something, it'll bring your mind back to the current moment. If you're depressed about something that happened in your past, it'll bring your mind back to the moment. It is a temporary fix, but it is something that can really, really help you over the long run. And I always tell people, give it 10 sessions in order to see if it's going to work for you or not. Because the first time you do it, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is stupid. I can't do it.
I was just going to chime in and say that people, and I was one of these people. So that's why I want to share that with folks is I was telling myself, meditation, this is stupid. This is some hippie stuff. I don't want to get it. What am I going to be on the yoga mat in the park? But it does help. I mean, maybe it doesn't help everyone, but I gave it a chance. And like Jonesy said, about 4 or 5 sessions, I think, in is when I started to it started to really click, and I could feel the effects. It doesn't just positively affect you, or at least for me, it didn't just in the session. It gave your brain a chance to slow down in day-to-day operations. So you were able to kind of grab yourself or catch yourself before you were going to spiral out of control or lose control of your thought process, your anxiety, your depression, whatever. So it does help overall your whole day, not just that 20 minutes that you're sitting there to do it. And I do suggest trying it because I thought it was a bunch of hubbub, whatever you want to call it, BS, if you will. And
one thing I would also echo with that is the fact that, once you do these mindful apps, don't go on social media right after, because everything you had just built will be gone after you see a Trump tweet.
That's not the only thing out there, bro. That's causing distress for sure.
Social media definitely causes a lot of anxiety, but can also be very useful, like you're watching our show. So yes, the Calm app, definitely recommend it. Try it out.
It was that movie that you were talking about also the other day.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of other movies. There's a bunch of movies. The one that I recommend for people is called The Mask You Live In. This is geared towards men. It was from an initiative called the Representation Project. So it's called it's the representationproject.org. The Mask You Live In is the movie that they promote for men. They also have a women's version called Miss MISS Representation. So there's one for women and there's one for men. And basically the Mask You Live In, it's around this premise, the same premise of what it is like to grow up and be a man in our society, and what is the phrase "be a man" actually mean. Joe Ehrman's in it. He talks about his Inside Out initiative, about how growing up to be a man is so difficult in our society today. And basically all men are wearing a mask. On the outside of that mask is the typical stuff that we talk about, the strength of being a man, providing for your family, stuff like that. On the inside of the mask is the stuff that we're always feeling, but we're not really talking about, as far as anxiety or anger, depression, stuff like that. The other couple quick resources that I have are the Yale EI, the Yale Emotional Intelligence Center. It's the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. Take a look at that. It's geared towards kids, but kids can,
Adults can.
But adults can take a look at it too. And basically what the Yale EI initiative does is it creates a safe space for people to be able to talk about this stuff, and how you can build that safe space within your family, so that mental health doesn't become a stigma within your family. The last resource is kind of a funny one. It's if you've ever seen the movie Inside Out, take a look at the movie Inside Out. It is a Pixar movie that is made for kids. However, it is a fantastic movie, especially if you just want to get the basics of what the basics of the vocabulary of emotions. Take a look at it. It's a good resource for you as being able to talk about this stuff. It's also a great resource for kids and opening up that conversation between you and your children, so they can better express their feelings and their emotions to you. So when your kid is having a meltdown and they're just crying, and you're saying what's wrong and they can't talk to you about it, they'll be able to open their mouths and be able to talk to you about it, rather than just expressing their emotions in an inappropriate way.
Awesome. Wow, that's some really great resources that you have for us, Jones. I feel like you and I talked a lot for this episode to give Joe a break for once. We're going to let you have the final word, though, today.
I passed it to Jonesy because I feel terrible. So I didn't feel like sitting down and writing it. I have the thoughts, and I'm sure anything he says I'm probably going to agree with him.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Definitely. So for the final word, you want to put up the graphic? Or not?
I didn't know if you wanted me to.
Yeah.
But I will.
So for the last word, as you've heard for the last hour, masculine mental health is something that is seldom talked about until it is too late. A lot of times the only emotion that men are allowed to show is anger, because we always have to show how tough we are. Unfortunately, be a man in most family culture and society means just get over it, or we just don't talk about that. Learning how to show joy, sadness, fear in a healthy way is something that most men do not learn how to do until the inability to do so has become so destructive to their lives that they're forced to, and by that time, they have ruined relationships and got themselves into other trouble. I needed to be forced to. In my mid-20s, my mental health took me to a very dark place and still does from time to time. I sought help for mental health issues and have come out on the other side on top. I have very supportive family and friends that helped me through my issues and gave me encouragement through the whole process, though. I know that I'm very lucky and not everyone has that. I do need to give a special shout out to my wife, because when I have a mental health episode, she pretty much suffers with me while simultaneously trying to help. The road to recovery is sometimes quick and sometimes not so quick, but it can't be ignored. This is why we're doing this episode. So in honor of Robin Williams and talking to all the men out there, if you're feeling sad, angry, hurt, anxious enough that it is affecting your daily life, please know that you're not alone and that more people seek help than you think. To the supporters and advocates, remember to ask your friends how they are doing for real, not just a what's up, but how are you? How are you feeling? What's going on in your life? And make sure you listen to their responses. Sometimes just making someone not feel invisible can save their life. Just because it's not talked about often doesn't mean that this isn't an important topic or that it doesn't matter. Lastly, always remember that you are worthy of help, and most importantly, you are worthy of unconditional love.
Wow, Jonesy. For those of you who don't know, today is Robin Williams' 69th birthday. If he was still here with us today, who prematurely died because of suicide. So once again, that suicide hotline number is 1-800-273-8255. If you need someone to talk to, reach out to me, Joe, or Jonesy.
Message one of our social media locations if you guys
yeah
want.
And we'll be happy to talk with you because we're on two different coasts, so we can span a long period of time also. So yeah, I mean, this was a deep topic. This is a deep conversation, guys. So I'm ready to go have a beer now.
Yeah, I think it's time to Netflix and maybe chill.
Definitely Netflix and chill is coming up next.
So I guess I'll take the torch from you guys and close this out with our information and stuff. So once again, like JC said, suicide hotline 1-800-273-8255. We've also got the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, www.ycei.org. We've got the Inside Out Initiative, insideoutinitiative.org/premise. That'll give you an idea what's going on with that. The representationproject.org is something to check out. And for our show, you can check us out. I made it easy, as I said earlier in the show, Linktree, linktr.ee/the TMi Podcast. That has all of the information for all of the locations we're at. Our Patreon is on there. You can contact us. If you guys have an idea for a topic for the show, feel free to reach out and send us an email. Say, hey, you guys should talk about this topic. We're totally down for suggestions. We have a whole list of stuff we're going to try to get to over the course of this run. But if you guys have something you want to hear about or something you're passionate about, let us know. Go to Linktree and send us an email or a message on one of our social media locations. Definitely check us out Tuesdays, 9 p.m. live Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we are on Spotify, iTunes, I think Pandora picked us up.
Pandora.
Google. I think we're on every major podcast platform. So please give us likes, follows, subscribe on all of those locations, and definitely leave us a review if you can, because that, I heard, helps boost you up the rankings and the charts on those services. So if you guys can help us out with some positive reviews, that would be great. But I think I'm done.
Yeah, feel better.
64 ounces in.
Yeah, I got to get some water in me, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, to my co-hosts, love you guys. Stay strong. We'll keep losing the weight and keeping our mental health in check. And we'll check you guys out next week. Thanks
Wash
for
your
tuning in.
chickens.
Peace.
Peace.
What'd you say?